Good afternoon, and thanks to everybody for coming in. So the subject of the presentation is how to start a startup. And we're going to cover the first steps that you need to do when you want to build a startup. So first I'll introduce myself for those of you who don't already know me. So I studied the Technion computer science as an Atudai, and then I went to a very secretive unit that at the time I couldn't say the name of it. I had to kind of say I'm in Chayil Klali. Now it's known as 8200. Then while I was in the army, I also did my master's degree in computer science and was planning to do a PhD and become a professor because that's what my mother wanted me to do. But I defied it and started a company called Roche Intelligent Systems. And while being at Roche, my wife and I moved to Boston. And after a while, I left Roche and started another company called CardScan, which is the only company that I can easily explain to you what it does. So this is CardScan. It's a small scanner and software to read and organize business cards. It was a very nice and successful company. After CardScan, and out of CardScan as a spin-off, I started a company called ZoomInfo. For those of you not from ZoomInfo who sit here in the building, I'll talk about it later. And out of ZoomInfo, we spun off and built another company called Bizo. And Bizo was sold to a ZoomInfo competitor called LinkedIn. So by the time it's all was done, I sold all the company, Roche, CardScan, ZoomInfo, and Bizo for a total amount above $1 billion. ZoomInfo went public in 2021, I think, right? And is now worth about $12 billion. When I left ZoomInfo, I started another thing called SmartUp. And the SmartUp Academy is a residency program to teach the profession of building successful companies. So each word in here is important. Residency, that's why you have the picture of the doctors, because after 6 years of medical school, you graduate, nobody will come to you because you're dangerous. So then you go and you do a residency for 3 years, 4 years, depending on the profession, because only then you really understand what does it mean to be a doctor. Same goes for building a company. It's a profession with a lot of details that you need to learn, practice, and understand. And that's what we try to do at the SmartUp Academy. So the companies that we already have in the program are Opster, TickChuck, Bioform, Clinical Site. I'll talk about them later on. So those of you who were at the last presentation might see it the next time, but I'll do a very quick recap. So the title of the previous presentation was 9 out of 10 startup companies fail. Why fail if you can succeed? So we talk about why these companies fail. And the reason is because of the structure under which venture capital firms work. They raise money from other investors and they need to bring it back with the profits within a period of 7 to 10 years. So what do you mean by give it back? Usually it's an exit, and a good exit, which means when you get a good multiple on your investment, is when you take the company public in the US, usually in the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. The reason I ignore at the moment companies being acquired is that it's very hard to figure out the return on investment. I just heard today from somebody that the company she used to work with was sold for $50 million, which is a great exit, except that the company raised $100 million. So they forgot to tell that in the newspaper article. But when a company goes public, you can see what they do. But to go public, for a company to go public in the US, you can't just be a $10 million company. You need to be at least a $100 million company in sales. And we will see why that's not so easy to do. So the numbers speak for themselves. In the last 10 years, 12,000 companies were founded in Israel, and only 68 went public, which is 1 out of 200. Why do I say 1 out of 10 succeeds? Because there's other way to succeed, but going public, which is kind of the exit, is fairly rare. So, as I said, to go public, you need $100 million. You need to grow relatively fast, about 20% or more year over year, and preferably, you need to be profitable. Why I say preferably? 3 years ago, you didn't have to be profitable. Nowadays, if you're not profitable, they won't even talk to you. So let's understand, what does it mean to be a $100 million company in revenues? So we'll take a very, very simple model. It's a SaaS company, so you basically just give a password to the application. And let's assume that a license costs $10,000 a year. Year 1 and 2, you develop the product, so no sales. In year 3, bang, you sell to 100 customers on the first year. And then you keep growing at 40% year over year. And you have perfect renewal rate. So that means a customer that you signed on the first year of sales will continue with you forever. So best possible company ever. And let's see what happens. So when you can see in here is if that's year 1 and 2, no sales, year 300, year 4, 240. Why 240? Because 100 from last year and 140, they grow 40% year over year. So 7 to 10 years right here. On year 10, only 3,500 customers. Year 13, you have close to 100,000 customers, to 10,000 customers. And if we translate it into money, you basically just multiply by 10,000. So you get to the needed 100 million on year 13. And what amount of investment is needed to get there? So let's look at it. In a typical software company, 70% of the expenses are salaries. All of you guys sitting in here cost money for whatever reason. And to foster rapid growth, companies will usually grow the number of people at the same pace they want to grow revenues. And the company will start generating cash only in year 12. And in the aggregate, they will lose $100 million. So you start seeing why, when they sell to another company for 100 million, sounds good on paper, but might not be interesting. As a result of needing so much money, company management raises money continuously. When I say continuously, that means every year, every 2 years, they're out there raising money. And when you raise money, it dilutes everybody, and mainly it dilutes the founders. So why fail if you can succeed? So the message I give people is you need to focus not on an exit, which is what the venture capital firms need. You need to focus on becoming profitable as early as you can. And when I say profitable, I mean like the old-fashioned way, generating cash. So you want at the end of each month to put $100,000 in the bank, $50,000 in the bank, $1 million in the bank, whatever it is, you want to see your bank account growing month after month. And this change in objective will change everything that you do, from the strategy you take, to the markets you focus on, to the business model, to product, to marketing. In future presentations, I'll talk a lot about the other things, but everything changes in the company when you change the objective from exit, which means grow as fast as you can, regardless of cost, to focusing on being profitable. Now, are the two at odds? So you either are profitable or you have an exit? The answer is resoundingly no. So actually being profitable makes a lucrative exit much more feasible for the obvious reasons. People need a really good reason to buy a losing company and knowing they have to put money in it, and are very happy to buy a company that their bank account keeps growing. You don't need to be a genius to figure that out. If you have a money machine you're interesting. It's that simple. So in a typical startup, the only way that founders get money out of the company, beyond their salary, is when there is a big enough exit. Why do I say big enough? Because the investors first take the money they invested. So unless there is really return on investment, founders don't get anything. Founders focusing on profitability are much more likely to make more money. I know it's not good English saying doubly more, but I really want to emphasize. They are more likely to make money, and they're more likely to make more money than with an exit. So you see, I like models, so let's build a very simple model. So on year 5, the company has just $5 million in revenues with $1 million in profit because they were focused all along on profitability, which means they spent less than their income. And they grow at about 20% year over year, but maintain their profitability. Just 20% profitability, growing 20% year over year. And because they didn't need a lot of money, the founders still hold about 50% of the equity. And let's see how that looks. So here are the assumptions on the top. So that's year 5, year 6, till year 10. Okay? Revenues, first line, second line is profits. So in 10 years, the company generated $10 million in profits in the aggregate. I repeat, $10 million in profit in the aggregate. And because the founders own 50%, they can take dividends of about $5 million. That's without an exit. And they own 50% of a very successful company that generates cash like crazy. On year 10, it generates $2.5 million. It's worth a lot of money. And that's for a small company, not very interesting for a public, nobody's going to take this company public with $12 million in revenues. So what we're going to do is talk about how you build such a company and what are the first steps that you need to do. Before that, I want to analyze what everybody else is telling you. Because the reason everybody is building it a certain way is because there are standard ways of building a startup company. So you have a great idea, and you believe it's worth millions of dollars. I'm yet to meet a founder or entrepreneur who doesn't believe that his idea is worth millions of dollars. And the accepted model is the following. You need to think big, and you need to move very fast. Big and fast. Remember that, okay? Why fast? Because otherwise, somebody else will take your idea and run with it. You need to have a grandiose vision about your technology. It has to be disruptive. I'm yet to meet somebody who is not doing something to disrupt the market. It has to be complex. It has to be cutting-edge technology. The buzz of the day is AI, of course. So you make shoes, they are designed by AI. You need to be the first to the market. Why? Because if you're not the first, somebody else is going to take it, right? And you need to be much better than the competition, because otherwise the competition will eat your lunch. And you need to dominate the market, because if you're not dominating the market, then God forbid somebody else will come. So a lot of it here is fear. But is it true? So if you raise money from VCs, what do you need? Remember, you have an idea, you need to go fast, but you need money for that. So you go to raise money. What do you need for that? Well, those of you who talk to VCs, they say, oh, we really want an experienced team because we invest in people. Did anybody here try to raise money? You heard it many times, right? We invest in the team. Okay. Well, most first-time entrepreneurs don't have experience, otherwise they wouldn't be first-time entrepreneurs. You need a grand vision. You probably need a demo or a mock-up of the product. And you need a compelling pitch book. What does it mean? You need to address a very large market opportunity and bring some analyst research, blah, blah, all the good stuff. You need to do a competitive analysis of all your competitors. And the pitch book must include the following. That's called the hockey stick chart. Well, at the beginning, we don't sell a lot, but once we hit the success, this is going to look like. I haven't seen many companies that do that. So if you raise money from VCs, you also need other things. A lot of patience knocking on many doors. We talked to a few VCs recently, and they said that they invest in 1 out of 100 presentations they see. 1 out of 100. You need a thick skin, because if you're one of the 99, you're going to hear a no. You need good timing. Try to raise money now. Nobody will talk to you, right? 2 years ago, yeah, if you said high tech without any mistake, you got money. And most of all, you need a lot of luck. So good luck to anybody. But is it really the best way of building a company? So what we're going to talk about today is an alternative way of doing that, which we call the SmartUp way, which is a much higher success rate. And when we define success rate, it means you have a profitable, growing company. So we have a lot of guiding principles on how you do that, and we will focus on one of them this time. Okay? But before that, I want to analyze all the standard beliefs. You have to be fast, you need to grow, you need to do all of that stuff. Do you really want or need an exit? Now I'm talking from the perspective of the founder, not the VC. The VCs need an exit, but do you need an exit? So I can share with you, I had many exits in my life. CardScan. Beautiful company, this thing, I'm still very proud of it. We sold it to a company called Dymo, which was a label printing company. That was their product. And they were a subsidiary of another company called Noel Rubbermaid. If the saying sounds familiar, Rubbermaid, well, they sold product supplies to retail channels. And they wanted to branch into electronics and high tech because it's the cool thing to do. So they bought Dymo, Dymo bought us, and we were supposed to be their high-tech division. But they didn't understand anything about high-tech. So before we knew it, they fired our marketing department, then they fired our sales department because they had salesmen that go to every retail store. I wasn't at the company at the moment, I was already running Zoom. But the CEO said it was a death by 1,000 cuts. He said every day they took something else. The company basically disappeared within 3 to 4 years. If you try to look at it on the web, you will find a few of these scanners on Amazon or eBay. But it's no longer there. And honestly, it breaks my heart till today. ZoomInfo. Well, ZoomInfo was a great success. Right? I sold it for a lot of money. But the day after I sold the company, my password was disabled. I couldn't get to my emails. That was a big shock because all my two-factor authentication was through the ZoomInfo. So I couldn't get it. And all the people I worked with for years, that I hired and worked with and were my best friends, some of them are in this room, are no longer with me. Think about it. As a founder, you build a company. It's really your second family. Sometimes your first. And you leave it. Do you really need to be first? Do you really need a big market? Grand product vision. So let's talk about it. Well, if I ask, I probably say no, right? So you don't need to be the first to dominate a market. In America, there is a saying, pioneers are the ones with arrows in their back. And if you don't believe me, I'll give you many examples. Facebook, the imminent social network, is the last in a long chain. MySpace was a very big company, was sold for $600 million. Friendster, Rise, and there's maybe 20 of them. Google was the last in a very long sequence of, Yahoo was the first, if I'm not mistaken. Lycos, InfoSeek, and you name it. Zoom, the application. WebEx, the people who started Zoom came out of WebEx. Skype, FaceTime, Google Meeting, Microsoft Meetings, you name it. Okay, so we see enough examples that being first doesn't mean anything. Usually the big guys at the end, the winners, are not the first. Why? Because they see what the other people do and they learn from their mistakes. You don't need a huge market to succeed. So to be profitable, the SmartUp way, all you need is $3 to $5 million in sales. That's all. And you are profitable if you build it correctly. And I have some people in the room that can say they are profitable with less than that. You agree with me? And penetrating one focused market segment is more than enough to get to the $5 million in revenues. And then you expand from segment to segment. So what you do is you start somewhere and then you keep moving and growing. And it's much easier to do than trying to take on the entire market, do it at once, because that's what the VCs need from you if you want to grow to $100 million in no time. It's a very, very difficult, expensive, and complicated process. Much easier to go step by step. So much so that I didn't invent it. So there is a term called beachhead. If people don't recognize the picture, shame on you. It's a very, very famous picture from World War II. D-Day, the landing of the Allies in Europe. So the Nazi Atlantic Wall, Germany, the Nazis, built basically a wall, a fortified wall, from France all the way to Norway in the north, about 5,000 kilometers long. The beachhead of Normandy, where the Allies penetrated, was 80 kilometers compared to 5,100. And was then further divided into 5 segments. And the entire US and British forces landed on that small piece of land. Why? Because when you concentrate your efforts, you're going to succeed at a much higher likelihood than trying to conquer the entire 5,000 kilometers. But people try to do it in business. Right? It makes a lot of sense when you think about it in military terms, but people don't think about it in business terms. It's much easier to penetrate a small segment of the market than to conquer the market. But once you are in, and you are established, and you make money, it's much easier to start spreading. And you don't need a disruptive, grandiose product vision. There is a term that many of you probably recognize, MVP, minimum viable product, which is a version of the product with just enough features to be usable by and bring value to early customers. Basically, the minimum you can do and sell and that people pay money for it is the product you want to go out with. Nothing more than that. So once you have that, you can start adding functionality based on feedback from paying customers. Why? Because you don't want to invest in anything that doesn't generate more cash. So with paying customers, you can ask them, if I do this, would you pay for it? So I want to give you some examples. I won't go into details, but just to have you start thinking about products you use every day. And are they complicated, AI, grandiose, or actually very simple product? WhatsApp. Who doesn't use WhatsApp? But if you look at the features, pretty basic features, but it works. Zoom, communication, same thing. Not the first, nothing special about it, yet they're very successful. Get Taxi, Pango. Just think about, pretty much, take your phone, look at all the applications, and you will realize that most of them are fairly basic, straightforward applications. Why are they successful? The devil is in the details. Doing something simple, but doing it right, is not as easy as you can think. So what's that, right? So the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. And then you need to start thinking in small, achievable steps. But what is the right first step, right? Well, you will have to wait until I tell you. So your biggest challenge if you build a startup is not to build your product. It is to bring paying customers. You want to be profitable, you need to bring paying customers. And it's very hard to bring paying customers. Why? Because they don't report to you. So building a product, you hire a few engineers, you pay them money, you tell them what to do. If they don't show up at 9, you fire them. It's all under your control. Customers are not under your control. Many times you don't even have a clue who they are. So it's very difficult to bring paying customers. And the first thing you want to do is think about your customers. Who are they? How do you reach them? What do you tell them? How do you get them to buy from you? You better do this, think about these questions before you write the first line of code or run the first experiment. So instead of building your company around your product idea, which in the heads of most people, that's the only way you can think of, right? I need to build my company around this product idea. I'm challenging you to build your company around a marketing and branding strategy. Think about it. You want to build your company around branding and marketing strategy. And if you think about what I said before, your customers, you don't know who your customers are, they don't know who you are. So there is this vague cloud outside that are supposedly your prospects, your customers. They have no clue who you are. How long will it take you that they will understand who you are and call you or buy your product when they need it? It takes a long time. So you better start early. But how can you start marketing and branding before you have a product? I said at the beginning, don't work about the product. Work about your branding strategy, marketing strategy. How do you do that? So the way to do it is to start thinking about the problem you're trying to solve instead of your specific solution. And the other thing that is really critical today is Google or the web is your best friend, regardless of what you do. And I want to say a few words about that. If you think about time ago, your market was around you, walking distance, maybe a car drive distance. Today with the web, the entire world is at your fingertips. Regardless of where you live and where your customers live, they can find you if they put something into Google that you think about. So you actually can reach everybody and anybody in the world by being smart. And we'll talk about being smart later. But I just really want you to focus on the revolution that Google or the web brought to the world by connecting everybody to everybody else. So we go back to what is the first step. So my recommendation, again, you can do whatever you want, but you're here to hear my recommendations. So the first one step in the long journey of building a successful company is to build a company website. The first thing you want to do is build a website that is based on a long tail strategy. Where's my tail? Oh, sorry, forgot it at home. Confused? That's my job, to take you out of your confusion. So let's start with the following examples. I'm going to go company by company that I work with, just to show you what we did in each one of them. So long tail is related to search engine optimization, or is it known SEO? And that's a picture of a long tail. Dinosaur with a long tail. But you can't read this, so I'm going to go over it a little bit more details. So there are headwords, and here's what they are. Common terms, like necklace, laptop, right? You go to Google, you type in necklace, what are you going to get? I don't know, but lots of people compete on it. There's a high search volume for these terms. There's intense competition for a first page placement in Google. I'll repeat the obvious. If you are on page 20 in Google, you don't exist. If you are on page 10, you don't exist. If you're on page 2, maybe. You want to be on page 1 and you want to be up there. So there's only one page 1, there's only first answer, one first answer. So there's tremendous competition on that. So what is the long tail? Long tail are keywords that are usually longer phrases. So you don't try to compete on a single word. The whole world is competing on it. You want to have long phrases. Something like 18-inch silver necklace with a pendant. And if you build a page per term like that, there's probably going to be low search volume, but less competition. And higher conversion rates, because people who type in 18-inch silver necklace with a pendant and they see a page about it, they're likely to click on it. So the top 10,000 keywords make up less than 20% of overall search traffic. Why? Because people understand that if I type in necklace or laptop, I'm going to get garbage. So they don't do it anymore. What do? 70% come from long-tail keywords, highly specific 4 to 6 word phrases. Because Google trained us that if you want good results, we better put good questions. Chris Anderson, editor-in-chief of Wired magazine, said, the best way to dominate the web in the face of stiff competition is to optimize for long-tail search. Well, here's the problem. Each keyword in the long tail has very few searches every month, right? Who is searching for 18-inch silver, blah, blah. To reach high traffic, because at the end of the day, you don't want to have 3 people a month coming to you. You want to have high traffic. So you need to publish thousands, if not millions of pages, each one with another long phrase. How do you cost effectively create thousands or millions of pages? That's the problem. And the tension is getting higher, right? So you all want to know how you do that. So let's first of all look at companies that you all know, but I want to just highlight to you how they all use long tail, even though you didn't think about it as long tail. Amazon. Try to type in the term I said before and you will see a page in Google. They create a page per every product they have. LinkedIn, a page per person, a page per company. Crunchbase, there's a page per each company. I don't know if you noticed, a few years ago, they only have information about companies that raise money. Then I think 2 or 3 years ago, they just dumped in a database of every company in the world, just to make sure that if you type in a company name, you will get Crunchbase. Facebook, same thing, a page per person. TripAdvisor, a page per hotel. And Zillow. Did anybody here ever hear about Zillow? Do you know what I'm talking about? Yep. I know you don't, so I'll show it to you. So when me and my wife came to America, our first address was 46 Longwood Avenue, Brookline, Massachusetts. So I typed it into Google. That's my address on the top. And Zillow is the first answer right there on Google. So they got the first answer. And let's see what they write there. So here's the page. I called my wife to come and see the pictures, and we had 5 minutes of walking down memory lane. Really, these are the pictures of the apartment we lived in. And let's look at the text on the side. So notice the rent Zestimate. Zestimate is Zillow estimate, if you ever noticed, of $2,999. The off-market for sales estimate, and the funnel to attract customers. So let me tell you what Zillow is doing. Zillow is basically a real estate agent. That's all. It's a real estate agent. Which means they help people rent apartment or buy apartment, rent houses, buy houses. That's all what they do. Nothing sophisticated. The smart thing they did is they went address by address in the US and they built a page. There's a page per address. So if you type in any address, you're going to get a Zillow page. And in the Zillow page, they tell you basically, here is the rent estimate. If you want to rent, we can help you. Here is the price estimate. And when I signed up for it, because I did, I get a monthly newsletter that tells me the price, the value of your house is now 2% up, 2% down. Why wouldn't you rent it out? And all of that stuff. An unbelievable marketing idea that took a real estate agent company and made it huge. Their revenues, I think, are $1 billion, right, Tila? Don't remember. So this presentation focuses on one guiding principle: how to build a marketing engine like Zillow that brings your prospects to you, brings your prospects to you 24/7. It will generate leads because just visitors is not enough at a low cost customer acquisition and with minimal investment. So I talked about the question, let's talk about the solution. So how do you create a long tail? The idea is fairly simple. What you really need is a database, any kind of database almost. Why? Because each row in this database, think about it just as an Excel spreadsheet, okay? Each row is about an entity. Can be a person, an address, a company, whatever it is, right? And you can create a page per row. The content is all the information in the fields of that row. That's the content that you put on the page. And because it's a database, any query that you run on it will generate additional content that is interesting. Like the 20 largest companies in New Haven, Connecticut. There are about 20 or 30,000 cities in America, so you have 20 or 30,000 pages that you can generate automatically using this. The 10 most expensive houses in Birmingham, Alabama. Same thing, okay? Zillow can take it, boom, in 2 minutes they can generate tens of thousands of interesting pages. So that's how you create automatically a long tail using this data. So let's look at the companies that I work with. Start with ZoomInfo. So that's the homepage of ZoomInfo. And let's talk a little bit about the history. The company was founded in 2000 by myself. And as we said, year 5 or so, it was a nice little company. We mainly sold to recruiters. That was our beachhead, our first niche that we wanted to penetrate. And by 2004, we were doing about $6 million. We were profitable, growing, all the good things that we like to have. But we wanted to grow much faster by going after salespeople. So we wanted to move from the beachhead, from the little niche we had, into a much bigger market called salespeople. Exactly what I talked at the beginning, right? You want to move from one segment to a different segment. So how do we go from one customer set, recruiters, to another? So we made a decision. That was 2004. It was pretty early in the game of the internet. Let's publish all of our data. 1 page per person. So why is it a long tail? Because salespeople and recruiters all day long search for 2 things. People by name or by their profession, what they do, okay? Which is their title and company name. If you are a salesman, you want to sell to the VP engineering at ZoomInfo, right? And you want to know the name of that person. That's what you do. Search by name is one of the most common searches in Google. But bear in mind, it's search by name. There are millions of names. So if you go to ZoomInfo website and scroll down, you will see that portion of it, which is the ZoomInfo directories. It's still from my time. Looks even the same. Okay, by A, B, C, and by location. And if you click on it, you will see this nonsense. But if you keep clicking, you will get to this page. Kimberly Dang, president, and you can see the red buttons that basically say, if you want the phone number, click in here. You want the email address, click in here. When you click in there, they give you a form that says, please fill out your details, and a salesman will call you. So what did it do? When I left in 2008, there were 50 million directory pages indexed by Google. About 10 million visitors came to the site every month. 10 million people came to the site every month. And this was an aggregation of many small searches, each for a different name. And we got 20,000 leads every month. We still get that number, and it's still the main source of leads and revenues. And the company grew by 50% year over year. And the cost of customer acquisition, as you might guess, was fairly low because all of this was our data. Sales cycle was also very short, 2 to 4 weeks. Why? Because customers already were familiar with what ZoomInfo is doing, because they saw it, right? They went on the web, they saw, they understood what it is. You didn't have to give long demos and what have you. But it also had a very strong impact on the brand, because in early 2019, we sold the company to a competitor, our biggest competitor, called Discover.org. And the CEO of Discover.org ran a study to decide which name we should call the combined company. Discover.org, ZoomInfo, something else. So the brand of ZoomInfo was 9 times more recognized than Discover.org. So he made the right decision and made me a very happy person, and the company is called ZoomInfo, and we are in the building where ZoomInfo is located. And that's the power of long-tail branding. People come to you. Opster. Nobody here knows what Opster does. Okay, so it's tools for DevOps engineers to manage and optimize mission-critical Elasticsearch clusters. Does anybody here know what I'm talking about? Oh, one guy. Power to you. Who are Opster's prospects? So the answer is in the sentence, DevOps engineer, Elasticsearch DevOps engineers. But how on earth can we target these people? It's almost an impossible equation. So we wanted to use the best, as I said at the beginning, focus on the problem, not on your solution. So when Opster started, it was started by the founder, Ziv, and myself. We had nothing to sell because we had an idea, but no product. And so we asked ourselves, what do DevOps engineers do when encountering a problem with their Elasticsearch installation? So I kept asking him, what do they do if they have a problem? And he said, I don't know. But it turns out that there is something, because the system generates error logs from time to time that tells you when there is a problem and what the problem might be. And these error logs are written into a file. And here are a random example of the error logs. So, could not lock index writer is locked. When my wife looked at it, she says, oh, there's a spelling mistake here. Well, it's not. That's the way it's written. What can I do? Remember that one because we're going to look for it on Google. Delaying a location, blah, 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 and gazillion of them, we won't go through it. So I put this first one in Google, and here's what we found. Stack Overflow, which is the premier place where technical people ask technical questions and get technical answers or no answers, are here. Elastic, which are the people who wrote Elasticsearch, they are below Stack Overflow. And Opster is first. Take any and all of these error logs, put them in Google, and we're first. So how do we do that? So how do you create thousands of content pages on these error logs? So we wrote a script, basically looked through the open source, it's open source code, and we found all the error logs. There were about 700 of them. Today there are about 3,000 because we have different versions of Elastic. And we created, that's really at the beginning of the company, we had nothing to sell. We created a website with mainly these 700 pages produced automatically. And we added some content about the glossary for all the terminology of Elasticsearch. And then we let it loose, let Google look at it. And what we found was very interesting. We started getting traffic. And when we looked at the traffic, we realized that the 80-20 rule works even faster than 80/20. So about 60 pages generated about 80% of the traffic. And that gave us a hint, where do we need to move from, automatically generating garbage, to where do we really want to produce high quality content. So with just 60 pages, we generated high quality content that we would otherwise never think about. And this high quality content creates a strong brand. Today, Opster is very well known in this community. So here are the traffic results. When we started back in 2020, we had about 40,000 visitors per quarter. In December, we had about 307,000 per quarter. But traffic is not yet leads. Remember, at the end, you need to sell, so you need leads. What we did is we developed an MVP. We developed a minimally viable product that we call Checkup, which essentially says you take 2 or 3 files from your Elasticsearch installation, you stick it, copy-paste into our system, and we do like a blood test, okay? So we found all kinds of things about your system, and we give you a report. That's what we do. Here's how it looks on our website, and you can see the black box on the right. When I took that picture, we had 12,852 registered users. And we requested the users to create an account, and our main source of leads today come from there, with a very low customer acquisition cost. So a little bit of history. We started number of users with 88 in Q3 of 2020. We today have 2,239 last quarter. And in the aggregate, we have over 13,000 registered users. And many of them come periodically to run the checkup to see the health of their system. TikTok. So I'll explain what they do. It's a platform for selling event tickets. That's what it is. Nothing too sophisticated. Offers a simple and easy way for artists and producers to create an event web presence. So you want to publish what you're going to do, like this presentation. So you create a page, and you start selling tickets for it. And the system also allows the artist or the producer to collect money. This one was free, I don't know why. Fast-growing, profitable company, the way we like them. But no marketing. All growth from word of mouth. And word of mouth usually goes in small circles. So they grow mainly in their relatively small community. And they wanted to go out and get the entire events market in Israel. And hopefully in America and elsewhere. So we needed a long tail idea. Again, focus on your problem that your customer is trying to solve. What is the problem? Buying and selling tickets, right? So who are the customers and who is the audience that we wanted to reach out to? So the customers are artists, singers, performers, producers, venues like the concert halls, okay, performance halls. All of these are potential customers for TikTok. But there's an audience, a very large audience, these are the people who buy the tickets, okay? And these are like 100-fold or 1,000-fold bigger than the number of artists. So what we did is we built a robot that extracts information about events from all ticket selling websites in Israel. There are about, 20 of them, that's all. And we just go and collect all the information from them. The result comprises a database about events from which we also created a database about singers, performers, producers, and venues. And the site listing all coming events and concerts in Israel. So we aggregated all the events that are happening in Israel. And when people search for an event, they put in the name of the artist and what have you, Google is likely to put our solution or our entries in the first page because there is not a lot of competition. Who else is competing? the place that sells the tickets. That's about it. So over time, we create an information page on each and every artist, singer, or musician. Now, what we did actually is you take a database that we created it by events, right? We started with the events, event by event by event. But in each event, there's an artist and a venue and a producer. Now we can invert that table and suddenly talk about artists, where they are, and locations and producers and what have you. So we start collecting all of this data and then inverting it. During the aggregated audience, interesting competitive audience, and I will talk about it in a moment. So let's look at some proof of concepts. This is Avram Fried, who is a very happy TikTok customer. And if I run his name in Google, here's what you're going to find. Wikipedia is number 1, can't compete against them. YouTube number 2, Facebook number 3, and TikTok number 4. So not a lot of competition, as you can see. So the long tail engagement, people who search on Google for an upcoming event will often go to the TikTok page for the artist. When clicking on purchase a ticket, what happens when they say, I want to buy a ticket? But remember, this is, we collect from another site, from the site who sells the tickets. So we direct them to the original site. That's what's going to happen. You click on it, and we take you to the original site, so we don't interfere with the intellectual property of others. But along the way, we offer for the user to sign up for an alert if that artist or similar artist conduct a show in their area. But what's in it for the artists? So this is a demo, we are both working on it, of Amir Dadon. So we start collecting information about them and we build a page for them. Okay? Everything about Amir Dadon, we put the numbers, how many places he was showing, and so forth and so on. And you see the 21,000. That's kind of the total estimate that we have of how many people saw shows by that artist. How we know that? Because we look at all the venues where he performed. We know that in this place there are 250 seats. They couldn't sell more than 250 tickets. So it's very easy to figure that one out. So people care about their web presence. That's a key in here. If you can build a long tail about your prospects, you get their attention. It's really simple. If I talk about you, you are going to listen to me. Most artists don't have a website or a well-maintained web presence, so there is an opportunity here. And TikTok will offer artists to own and use the page as their main web page, same way that Zillow offered me to own my location. Okay? And we collect pictures and so forth along the way, but we allow them to add more content and organize it. And we'll take care of updating it. So every time they appear somewhere, we will update their page. And obviously, they can use us for buying tickets. So we're launching soon. The data collection is going on strongly. We're building the site. You saw a demo. And the most interesting thing is the last point. The entire thing costs very, very little money. You have to scan 20 websites once a day. That's about it. The rest of it is just the concept, the idea, and attention to details. So we talked about the SmartUp Academy. Let's discuss a little bit what it is and what it does. So how does it work? It's a residency program. Okay? You learn by building your own company. This is not a school where we talk about somebody else. Right now, I had no choice. I had to talk about somebody else. But as you can see, I talked mainly about people we work with. You build your own company with our help. What does it mean with our help? We become basically a co-founder in your company. And that means we stay with you for the long run. Because every step of the way, there are new challenges. So we see ourselves as partners, as co-founders, staying with you on the long run. And we work with you on the big details, designing the strategy, but also the execution, because the devil is in the details. You wouldn't be surprised how many great ideas fall apart because you just don't pay attention to the details. Most big companies pay attention to the details, which is why they become big. The small ones who just have an idea don't go anywhere. We have weekly or bi-weekly management meeting with the SmartUp staff, depending on the company. At the beginning, it's more often. Later on, as everything goes well, we make it every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, whatever fits the company. And then we have seminars and with other participants, so each company knows all the other companies and we help one another. Building a startup is very complex. It has many steps and it takes a long time. So we have many other presentations in the doing, and we talk about it in many of our meetings, like how to raise seed money. Everybody needs money at the end, so we help you with that. How you build or design your MVP, all kinds of ideation. Business models, that's a very, very big subject of business models. Just to give an example, we work with one company, they had a product, and we came to the conclusion that selling the product is the wrong way. We need to sell services instead of product, which I think we all feel now was the right decision to do, and so forth and so on. Pricing, packaging, cash flow. Just one word about pricing. Common wisdom says, you lower the price, you will sell to more people. There is nothing more wrong than that. You sell at a low price when your product is perfect. When your product doesn't work, you sell it at a very high price. People who know me smile already because I've proven it many times. Why? I don't know, because if it is expensive, it must be complex. If it's complex, no question it doesn't work, right? It's very complex. We need to bring somebody to install it. We need to bring somebody to program it, blah, 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 blah. It just doesn't work, okay? But meanwhile, you pay a lot of money and you're happy. Because when you buy Word, you expect it to work. When you use Google, you are very angry because you paid nothing, right? If it doesn't come in 2 seconds, you're very angry. So remember that. You raise the price when your product doesn't work. How to reach profitability and maintain it? Raise the prices. And how to build your team and many, many other things. Okay, so there are many, many presentations to come. You're all welcome to come. Who is it for? So we have 5 different audiences that we would like to talk to. Founders at any stage, companies that want to do better, people who want to be entrepreneurs, investors who want to participate. Remember, we talked about seed financing, and people who just want to learn. We meet a lot of people who really just want to learn, and it's interesting for them. So founders, at any stage of their journey, you're an entrepreneur with or without experience. We don't need prior experience. You have a project you believe in, you work full-time on your project. So founders are people who are already committed to what they do. That's what they do. They build their company. You have or you don't have co-founders or a team. You have or you don't have a demo of your product. We're very loose about all of these things. And you need help taking it forward in a professional way. We work with people at a very early stage if we see the commitment and the excitement. Companies that want to do better. So your company is already established. You have a team working. You raised or you didn't raise money. And preferably you have a product. You already have paying customers. And you can guess what's the next point. Right? So if you're profitable, you have proven that you know how to run a business. People who want to be entrepreneurs. This is a very, very important segment. There are many people of that. So you have a dream of someday starting your own startup. But many of them don't have ideas for a product. And you're currently working full-time somewhere else, in engineering, marketing, product, or any other high-tech position. Okay? Many, many people, what we call them, they want to be entrepreneurs. And you want to learn how to build a company while working at one of the SmartUp companies. So you're welcome to fill out a form and we will try to help you find your home. Interested investors, you're a professional VC or angel investor, you're interested in having early access to SmartUp companies. You want to explore all kinds of ideas how to make money, not just through an exit. And people who just want to learn. You want to come to presentations, you want to receive materials, you want to participate in some meetings. By the way, we have no secrets. So anybody who wants to just come in to a meeting of another company is welcome to do so. Rule number one in our case is there are no secrets because the devil is in the details anyway. So I tell you a lot of good ideas in here. Please run with them. Do whatever you want. I'm serious. And you want to join our mailing list. So if you want to do all of that, you just go to our website, smartupacademy.org, click on join and fill out the form. There are 5 different forms. Fill them out. So let's do a summary because we were talking for an hour and probably you already forgot what I said at the beginning. My name is Yonatan, by the way. That's what I said at the beginning. The most important thing is to change the objective of your company from trying to go after an exit to profitability, which means generating cash. Profitable companies have a higher likelihood for a lucrative exit. Remember that. The fact that you are profitable actually increases the chance for you to have an exit rather than growing fast and going crazy and spending a lot of money. Profitable companies can and do pay dividends to the founders without an exit. We have proof of that here in this room. You don't need to be first to the market. You don't need to dominate a huge market. You don't need a grandiose, sophisticated, disruptive product vision. You don't need all of that. But the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, and the first step is building a long-tail website. That's the only actionable thing I told you today, right? That you can go and do tomorrow. Start building your brand and have your prospects come to you before you build your product. So with the first $100,000 you have, don't try to build a mock-up of your product. We trust you can build it. Start thinking about how you bring your customers. And building a startup company is a profession and it can be taught and practiced, which is why we are here. So I want to introduce the SmartUp team. They're sitting in here, Libby. Libby is the COO of the company. Basically, she's everything. So if you ever need anything, don't talk to me. She's the person. Ayala, please stand up. She's the CFO. And she will teach you how to manage the money. And the rest of the team. Questions? The question was, she said, well, if I understand correctly, then the long-tail strategy is a database, right? That was the question. Well, the question is, the database is the engine behind the scene. Each row in the database, you translate into a full page in your website. Okay, that's what you do. Any other question?
What do you mean by the full page? What do you mean?
I'll explain. Google is in
page like a page.
Like a page.
A page, not a page in SEO optimization stuff. It's just
a page. Right. If you look at my examples, go and run any query and you will see a page. That's what I mean, a page.
Static URL, right?
Hmm?
Do you mean on a static?
Yes,
Not
yes.
a lead generated?
No, just a page.
First of all, thank you for your interesting story. I have a question. Is long tail strategy works for any product?
For any?
For any product.
Yes. And I explained to you why. The answer was Google, which means nowadays, everyone, whether you're selling a nuclear power plant or shoes, the people you want to talk to look for something on the internet, right? We all start every morning, and I can tell you in our house as well, you start the morning with looking for something on the internet. Why? I don't know, but we all do that. So your prospects are looking for some information on the internet. You want to be the one they find. Start thinking there. If I build nuclear plants, what are my customers, the power companies look for? Build it.
What do you do if what your prospects are looking for is either very competitive or either very generic?
Yeah, he asked, but you say what your customers are looking for. Is it generic or is it very competitive, you said? Okay. Well, like anything else, it's an art to decide what you're going to put. Okay? And I would say it's not trivial. You have to think about it. But the beautiful thing about it is that to build it usually is not very complicated. So you can build it, put it on the web, have Google start looking at it, and then you will see who comes. Okay? So it's like throwing out a net, and now you start to look at the fish that coming. If the fish are too small and go through the net, it's not the right net. But it's very easy to do before you spend tens of millions of dollars building something and then asking who might want it. Okay? It's a very, very strong educational tool for you and for your customers. Yes?
So when I try to raise money, I'm telling people I want a profitable company. I'm not interested in a big exit. And every investor or people who talk to investors tell me investors need to exit. They will not give you money without exit, and you give opposite advice. So I don't understand how you can get it. That's the way it works. How can you get an investor if they want to exit and you're trying to build a profitable company with dividends, and they go, investors don't want that model.
I'll repeat the question. So he said, well, I see a problem in here. You say, don't worry about exit, but at the same time, if I need to raise money, the investors want an exit. So what am I going to do? Tell them no exit, they won't come, but I need the money, right? You saw there was the fourth audience was investors. I'm still working with investors to figure out the model that will work for them as well. Based on a lot of conversations we had, it seems like it will not be venture capital firms, but angel investors. But there's a lot of money in the hands of angel investors if you convince them that this is a really smart, good investment. But that's a very good question, and we're working on it right now. By the way, we build SmartUp the way I just described. So we go step by step, we solve problem after problem. So funding is the current problem. Any other? Yes. So he asked the following. A, do you invest personally? That's the real question he asked. Second question is, what percentage do you take for the SmartUp Academy participation? And that was it, right? Yes,
No,
okay.
how many hours?
And how many hours I work? Okay, that's a good question. With the company. So I'll start with the last one, which is the easiest. I work with the company as much as is needed. But I work at a strategic level, so I sit with the CEO and the management team. And usually at the end of the meeting, there's so much to do that they don't want to see my face for at least another 2-3 weeks. Because as one person who worked with me in the past, when I came the following day and said, so how is it going? And he says, Yonatan, when you stop talking, I start working. Leave me alone. Okay? So usually they get as much time as they want, but usually it's at the beginning about every week, then every 2 weeks, then it goes to every month because it's just the amount of work that they need to do between meetings is too big. There's nothing to talk about unless they did something and we see results. So that's the last one. Regarding to personal investments, that I do personal investments. Regarding SmartUp, so SmartUp is different than me. Okay? It is an independent entity, it's not me. And it is a co-founder and it takes 20% of your company. Why? Because we stay with you forever. Literally, not just having stock, but really we work with you till you are successful. I think the oldest one is upstairs, 3 years, 3.5 years, something. Yeah. We're working with them. 4 years? 3.5. 3.5. Okay. We have representatives from each company to keep me honest. So. Any other question?
So will we sign up on the form, get a meeting?
Yes. No, you first will be interviewed by Libby, and she will check. We have a screening process, but it's really fast. Okay. Thank you so much for attending.